The next animated D&D story is taking longer than expected, so instead of missing another week, I decided to make another video covering my favorite monsters from a Pathfinder 2nd edition book, this time covering the first of the 3 bestiaries that they've released up until this point. So, the thing about Bestiary 1 is that it has a lot of generic fantasy creatures in it, which is kind of what you'd expect from the first monster manual or bestiary for a new system. People want to use their orcs and skeletons and goblins because those are the bread and butter of fantasy RPG games. However, you already know about all of those creatures, so for the purposes of this list, I'm going to be aiming to talk about some of the more unique creatures in this book. Now that we have that out of the way, it's time to talk about my favorite monsters from Bestiary 1. The first creature we have today is the Dullahan. A Dullahan is a level 7 undead headless horseman that hunts down those it deems unworthy of life, then takes their severed head as a trophy. Even more terrifying is that right before the killing blow, it whispers the name of its target, then the hatchet comes down and you're dead. Combat-wise, this creature seems fairly strong, with frightful presence, fast healing 5, as well as attacks of opportunity. And that's not even mentioning its ability to summon a fiend warhorse with only 2 actions, or that all of its weapons have the keen trait which lets it crit even more often than it usually would. I feel like the way that I would use one of these is that one of the main villains of the campaign has managed to get the original skull of the Dullahan, which lets them control it. The villain then sends the Dullahan around killing off NPCs that the players are allied with, and then the party has to try to figure out what's killing all of their friends and then stop it before more of them die. Next up we have the Gogiteth, a horrifying level 12 spider-like aberration. These massive creatures are pack hunters that tend to live in the depths of the Darklands, but occasionally they roam far from the usual hunting grounds. Their long spindly legs make a clicking sound as they move. However, they are also able to stop this noise and go completely silent when they are moving in for the kill on their prey. Combat-wise, they have a few interesting abilities such as skittering reposition, which lets them use a reaction to move away from someone who just walked up to them. They also are able to grab as a free action and can move at full speed while having someone grabbed, dragging them along with it. This completely changes the dynamic of the fight midway through, because now the party has to try to save their ally from being dragged away and torn apart. A quick quest idea that I thought of for these things is that a pack of them has managed to get to the surface, and is tormenting a mountain passage where many trade caravans tend to go through. The party then needs to delve into the mountains to find the hive and exterminate all of these creatures. Now we're moving back to another undead creature, this time talking about the level 10 Graveknight. These are undead warriors who were brought back to life by a curse in their armor. That's basically it, but I think they're pretty cool, plus they are fairly interesting in combat. They can freely attempt to counteract any spell or ability within 30 feet of it that has the positive trait, which is already pretty damn powerful. Then they also have really strong melee and ranged options, plus they can summon a phantom steed in combat, which is badass. I tend to include at least one of these in all of my campaigns so far. They're usually a knight who's been dead for a very, very long time, and they have some useful information that the players might want, but also sometimes they have a blood vendetta against a player. It kind of just depends on the campaign. Next up we have my favorite type of creatures ever, Kobolds. Yes, I know that I said that I'd try to mostly only include the interesting and unique creatures from this book, but I absolutely love Kobolds, so I just had to add them to the list. These little guys are really weak, and a faint breeze is usually enough to kill them, but they're just so much fun. They like to use a bunch of traps in their dungeons paired with hit and run attacks, which makes them a terrifying foe even against higher level parties. These hit and run attacks are made much more effective because of their hurried retreat action, which lets them run away from enemies with a speed boost as well as a bonus to their AC against any attacks of opportunity against them. As for a quest involving kobolds, well, they're kobolds, they're everywhere. You can throw a kobold dungeon down basically anywhere in your campaign and it wouldn't seem out of place. The next creature is the Ofalth, a level 10 aberration. And Ofalth is basically just a shambler but made of debris and sewage instead of plants. There isn't too much lore to this creature, other than that they tend to live in the sewers and that they have a rivalry with Oatyugs. However, they have a decent amount of interesting abilities combat-wise. The first one is that they gain fast healing 2 when in an area with a high concentration of debris, junk, or excrement, such as a refuse heap or a sewer. They also have the ability to disguise themselves as a 10-foot pile of garbage, similar to what mimics are able to do with furniture. However, none of that compares to the disease that they can inflict on people upon hitting them. It deals a lot of damage every single hour, and you only get to make your fortitude saving throw for it once a day, so you really don't want to get hit by this thing because even if you win the fight, you'll be feeling the pain for days afterward. My first idea for a quest would be that a pack of Oatyugs are fighting an Ofalth in the sewers, and because of this none of the sewage is actually being disposed of in the city, so the party is sent down into the sewers to solve the situation one way or another in order to fix this whole situation. Because I seem to love aberrations so far this video, the next creature on the list is yet another aberration. Or more specifically, it is the level 15 creature known as the Quelaunt. First things first, these things look creepy as hell. Not much lore information is actually known about them, and there is an air of mystery around them that kind of reminds me of a type of creature that you'd investigate in a game of Call of Cthulhu or something like that. One of the things that is known, however, is that they get stronger from eating negative emotions, and there is even an actual ability they have in combat about this, which is super cool. Other than all the emotion manipulating abilities it has, the Quelaunt also has permanent airwalk, which definitely provides some interesting tactical options for it in combat. As for a quest involving this creature, I'd honestly run one of these sort of like an investigation from Call of Cthulhu. One of these appeared near a village or city, and a group of people were able to temporarily capture it and begin researching. But then it left the cage, killed most of them, and drove the rest insane. Now the party has to try to put together the pieces from the ramblings of the last living madmen and their insane scrawled notes. The final and highest level creature that I'm going to be talking about today is the Skulltaker, a level 18 undead. I don't think that I can describe a Skulltaker better than the book itself, so here is what the book describes them as. Swirling down from misty peaks and through howling mountain passes like an evil wind, the vortex of bones known as the Skulltaker is a terrible manifestation of the delirium and agony experienced by doomed climbers and lost trailblazers just before they met their end. As for their power in combat, well, they're really fucking strong. They deal damage every round in a radius around them from a cloud of swirling bone shards, and that's just the start. Anyone it hits with an attack has to make a DC 40 fortitude save or become drained 2 and doomed 1. That's not even mentioning that it can also bring back any person it kills as a skeletal champion on its side, or that it has the ability to cover every surface in a 100-foot emanation in splintered bones, which deals damage to everyone who walks through them. I feel like it could be pretty cool if this was the actual big bad of the campaign, and the main antagonist for most of the campaign was actually serving a Skulltaker for whatever nefarious scheme they have. And you could have hints scattered throughout the campaign that the Necromancer guy isn't the main boss. Then, during the final fight in a citadel on the mountainside, the Skulltaker tears its way into the main chamber, kills the Necromancer for failing in their job, and decides to take on the party themselves. So, those have been my favorite monsters from the first bestiary for Pathfinder 2nd edition. Let me know what your favorite monsters are in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my other tabletop RPG videos I upload. Anyways, don't forget, when in doubt, throw an owlbear at the party.